Hi everyone, these are solution videos to the practice final for fall 2023 at the University of Georgia. So when preparing for this exam, the exam's going to follow the same format as it says on the instructions. The actual exam will be shorter than this exam. But on exam day, one of the first things you want to do is not to ignore this page. So make sure you read through the instructions thoroughly, and I even recommend underlining in your own handwriting things that stand out to you, so that way you can reference it toward the end to make sure you followed all of the instructions. So I would say the first significant fact here is this format will be used, but it will be slightly shorter. Now the exam's going to have two parts. The first is going to consist of multiple choice questions. The second will be free response. You must show your work for both parts. Okay? And an unjustified answer will receive no credit. So that means on a multiple choice, if you simply circle the answer, even if it's the correct answer, but don't write any kind of justification down, you might get no credit. So it also says here, if you're using a shortcut, explain it. So as I go through these problems with you, I'm going to demonstrate like different ways you can justify your work and show your response. And I'm also going to talk about strategies for these multiple choice questions, because math multiple choice questions are sort of a different beast than any other types of multiple choice questions. You can kind of throw kind of standard thoughts and logic about multiple choice out the window, and I'll talk about that when we go through those problems. Make sure your work is neat. It tells you here you have instructions. You want to circle the answer on the multiple choice questions, and you want to put a box around your final answer for the free response. So these are specific instructions, and you want to make sure you're following these instructions so you don't lose anything. Okay, so the next one has to do with in the room, about devices that you can't use, but the next bullet point says you do not need a calculator, and answers containing symbolic expressions are acceptable. Include an exact answer for each problem. Now let's be clear on this, what we mean by an exact answer. So if a decimal is given in the problem, you're allowed to work with that decimal number and deal with it. When we say exact answers, it means you cannot create any decimals. A decimal is by definition an approximation. So we'll also talk about that as we go through the problems. And the other kind of important thing to keep in mind is there's only one calculator approved for the exam. We do a calculator check at the beginning of the exam. So it is the calculator that you should have been you should have been allowed to use throughout the semester, but is the TI-30XS Multiview calculator. The name must match exactly, and no other calculators will be allowed to use. So we're very, very strict on this calculator policy, so make sure you have the appropriate materials.